Okay, Barbara, you can begin the meeting.
Okay, that's just great. Thank you, everybody, for coming on time. As I was trapped in some cyber world. Anyway, so this evening we have one application, and it's a new application for liquor, wine, beer, and cider for 8814 Restaurant. And I know it's Mr. Soto, Victor Soto is the owner. Hi. Is there anybody else here from the restaurant?
My name is Robert Callahan. I'm the licensing expediter.
Okay, great. Let me just write that down. It's Robert Callahan, 2 L's.
Yes.
Let me just write that
from
down.
Michael Kelly, Inc.
Oh, from the attorney's office, right. Expediter. I noticed on your application, Mr. Soto, you, as of when you put the paperwork in, you did not yet have a trade name. What is the business going to be called? You have to unmute yourself.
Hi, how are you? Good evening.
Good to see you.
Same here. The reason is right now we have the restaurant, we have the space. First of all, I'm in the restaurant business now for 20 years, and I'm with the Lombardi's restaurant family for Lombardi's Pizza in New York City, on which this one I'm doing in my own. So right now it is going to be pretty much similar operation of the one that was current there. There was Patsy's. So at the moment, I'm just waiting to finalize when I'm ready to open, because I don't want to become what was Lombardi's 32 Spring. I want this some more neighborhood centric. I want this basically for the neighborhood, more of the pizza for the neighborhood, the restaurant itself to be for the neighborhood. That's the reason I haven't finalized. It's going to be a correlation to Lombardi's, but I don't want to put a full name to it until I'm not ready there.
Okay, now I think, Josephine, you had mentioned something about the licensing, that they do have to have a trade name. Could you just clarify that for me, please?
Yeah, what I had mentioned to you, Barbara, is that the point of application to the State Liquor Authority, that the corporate name, the State Liquor Authority wants to know both the corporate name and the DBA name. We've had cases where we've had restaurants who have not the DBA and have gotten violations. So we just like to let all of our applicants know that as soon as you know your DBA, you have to let the State Liquor Authority know. I'm sure Robert Callahan will.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
Okay.
They actually need it to get a final approval for the license.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
We're early on in the process now. We have a little while before the license will get approved, so we will come to that date. We will let them know before we can get the license.
Yeah, we like to share that because we've had some restaurant owners who have been hit with big violations for that.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I have just like the basic what we're doing, if you'd be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, and I'm going to
Maybe
put
I
up
might
some
answer
slides
some
too,
questions.
Michael, as you're speaking.
Okay, so this is I lost it. Okay, so this is an on-premise liquor license application for 8814 Restaurant LLC. Again, we'll be getting the trade name a little later on. We're located at 8814 3rd Avenue between 88th and 89th Streets, where the old Patsy's used to be. This location has been licensed with on-premise liquor licenses. I could go back to 2004. So we're going to be a full-service Italian restaurant. Our hours of operation will be 11 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week, so we're not a late-night spot. We'll have 18 tables with 56 seats and a bar that will seat 10, not for a total of 66 seats. And then we'll have 8 to 10 staff members at all times. We'll provide light background music from an iPad or something similar. We will have no outdoor areas. No French doors or opening windows, so that no noise will come out. So if you have any questions, now we'd be glad to answer any of them for you.
Yeah, I do, because, basically I've written a lot of that up that we'll eventually be asking Mr. Soto to agree to.
Okay.
And I noticed I don't know if you have your questionnaire with you, Mr. Callahan or Mr. Soto.
I do.
And Josephine has informed me that Patsy's had numerous, and I'm speaking about dozens of 311 complaints regarding noise.
Really?
Now, some of them were, either unfounded, but a lot of them, the police had to go there, at the later hours because of the extreme amount of noise and disturbance at this Patsy's. And I believe Trace also before that caused to the community. And if you turn to page 5 of your application, and perhaps it was in error. Do you have it with you, Robert or Victor?
I do.
Okay. Page 5, item number 3, where it says, if requested, will you follow the recommendations of a certified sound engineer to mitigate potential noise disturbances?
That's my fault. That's my
okay.
fault.
And
Yeah.
including the placing of the speakers, because we had, I think he may have closed recently. I'm not going to name it. Very nice man, beautiful restaurant, but he had the speakers high on the building and on the outside that the neighbors and the tenants complained about.
Okay. Actually, you know what? When I filled this out, for some reason, the if requested didn't register in my brain.
Okay.
Yes, if requested, we will definitely do everything we need to do to get the sound levels. Go ahead, Victor. Jump in.
Okay.
If you allow me to have a word in regard of the noise,
Sure.
that's something that the prior restaurant that I'm partner on, that was in the Chelsea area, and we had a worse, they don't even want to allow the license. So what we did was, as soon as I got there and I saw the type of speakers they actually halfway down already, because they some type of speaker, even a nightclub, I don't know. I know a little bit about sound, and they way too much. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take everything that is there down, and we're just gonna run our basic standard restaurant speaker that we know how to put them for the right sound, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because I went through it already in Chelsea, and it's definitely one, I don't think for anything in the area that is, no less for what we're looking to do as a restaurant. It's not even a problem.
Right. When and Mr. Callahan, and in your application talks about only background recorded music.
Yes.
Correct.
And my thing is, the times that I had gone to Patsy's, it was basically dinner time. And I went to Trace once or twice, and I was there earlier. And I'm assuming, and maybe Josephine, more from these complaints, that a lot of these complaints happened more as the night progressed. It became a nuisance to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these complaints, Barbara, they were after midnight. And I think what happened in the prior establishments, different than yours. You're not going to be open past midnight, so.
Exactly, and we know. I'm sorry that we know what it takes, because I'm doing this for 20 years straight, 7 days a week. I've been in the bar business and the nightclub business, and that's the one business for the last 15 years we don't want to go back into it. And that's the reason we call it 12 midnight hour. They closing time. Yeah, you always get that draft of those people staying over, but we know how to work with it because we had it for many amount of years. And one thing is simple for me. I'm in Spring Street for now 20 years. I'm in Chelsea now for about 4 years. The one thing works for me, get along with the neighborhood, work out with the community of the neighborhood, and that's make it easy for me. So I'm a simple person to work with, because I love to get along with everybody. That's the way I see it.
Great.
Yeah, because I think you even have the kitchen closing at 11. So,
Barbara, you have a question from Marty Lentz?
Yep. Go ahead, Marty. Unmute, Marty. Marty, you have to unmute.
She's unmuted, but we still can't hear you, Marty. Yeah, no, can't hear you, Marty.
Now you're muted again. Okay.
Now?
Yep, got you now.
Oh,
Yes.
the magic. I think my headset is not talking to my laptop right now. I think that was the problem. So I also see on the same section that Barbara indicated, page 5, first question. Did you mean to answer NA rather than no to that question? Meaning there would be not, you don't have French doors, garage doors, retractable
Yes, yes.
sliding windows. Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, because there will be none.
right. Okay. Let me see here.
Well, I was having a bad day that day, huh?
So,
Barbara, you're on mute.
there you go. I'm good.
You're good.
We appreciate, the idea that you realize that, the noise level and keeping the quality of life in Bay Ridge is something that, we check on, and we work very closely with the police. And the last thing we want is, the 6A precinct calling Josephine, and we're having to, hear bad things because in light of what's happened with the pandemic, we're very happy that family style restaurants, are going into places that may have closed for one reason or the other. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's the reason why we kept that midnight straight across the board. Because
Correct.
we don't want to get into that late night.
Right. Okay. For the committee, the questionnaire was complete with all of the owner's personal information, the premise photos, the C of O, and the floor plan as you saw. The menu seems to be a minimal draft. Am I correct with that?
Correct.
Okay. And there's no trade name attached, but you will have that. Yes, he does have only background recorded music and no outdoor use, and that including the outdoor in light of COVID, or you're just going to keep it strictly indoors?
What will happen to that is that if it's at any moment that to stay open, like right now, we currently doing Spring Street, is that if it's a choice to do something short and small against the building, we would do it. But we don't qualify in the actual street or roadside because the water hydrant is there. So even if I would like,
When are we opening this place?
Mhm.
When do we expect to open?
it all depends, because what happened right now is I'm okay to open mid-end of March, but we are just playing it month to month, paying the rent to be able to open as the cities permit that makes it worth it. Because I don't have outside seating
Right,
to
but
work with.
at that time, when you open, if the seating is still lower, would you do the sidewalk seating like everybody for the COVID?
If I'm allowed to do the outside seating, yes, I would like to that be a possibility only during the time that I'm allowed to.
But then
Yeah,
when
of
we go
course.
back to normal, you won't have any outdoor seating.
I won't be interested on it unless it's something come to a point that's working for the restaurant. But I believe with what we have inside, with the amount of seating inside, is more than enough for what I'm looking to do. Because
Yeah, I
for
just wanted to
community
feel that the
centric, you don't
committee
need to do
understood
volume.
that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the committee? I'm seeing none, I think. Okay. What happens is basically the way this is written is that the board agrees to deny the application unless you agree to, basically it's a formula of stipulations, recommendations. Okay. So I'm going to read them to you.
Perfect.
As we do, and these are just like most other restaurants like yours. It's not a karaoke bar where we need a lot of, eyes watching. Okay, so for the committee, I recommend that we deny the application unless the owner, Mr. Victor Soto, agrees to the following stipulations: that the premise will operate as a restaurant, that there will be no sale or consumption of alcohol on the premises until the appropriate authorization is issued by the SLA, that the hours of operation will be Sunday through Saturday, that's 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. The doors and windows are to remain closed in coordination with any amplified music, that there will be only background recorded music. The sound level will remain below the level permitted by the New York City Noise Code. There will be no music on the outside of the premise, and there will be no use of the outdoor space. That the licensee shall not use any promoter or have promoted events. There will be no smoking permitted. And the applicant agrees that should it change its method of operation, it will give notice and meet with the community board and the committee at least 45 days in advance of any such change. Are you okay with that, Victor?
Excellent. On the outdoor seating scenario, is anything there that you believe will be some sort of flexibility? Everything else is exactly what we do, so it's easy. But in the outdoor, is anything at that moment or further, I can go ahead and go in front of you guys and ask?
What, are you talking about the COVID seating, Victor?
The
or-
COVID scenario seating. I'm not interested in further. I
Okay.
just would like to have a little leverage.
Well, because
to
there are
try
no
to
more
stay
sidewalk
in.
cafes.
During the COVID, if, you know, in
Yes.
2 years from now, you're not going to have, 10 tables outside.
The-
Okay. so
God willing,
I could just add that into the stipulations, correct? You'd be okay with that, Josephine?
please. Thank you.
Yes, Josephine?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, I'll add that in there, okay? In light of COVID, you may want to use some sidewalk seating because you can't use the street
Please.
because of the fire hydrant.
Okay.
Okay,
Don't worry.
okay, so I have this motion on the board, on the floor. Do I,
Now, board members,
do I have
we're
a
going to
second?
try something new tonight. This is the first committee that we're going to launch this polling.
Oh,
That's very exciting. Yeah, so I'm going to try this. I practiced early with Dorothy, so I'm going to launch. Can you all see this on your
Ooh.
screen?
Wow.
Wow, yes.
Okay, so
wow.
board members can vote on their screen.
Ooh, I like that.
Now, this is a test because we have 11 board members. So you all have to be paying attention and voting. Can you all do it? I'm up to 10. Okay. So it is unanimous.
Very good.
As you
Okay.
can see, 11 voted in support.
This is very
Thank you.
cool.
I like
Very cool.
Yeah, that-
Nice
that's
job,
really good. This is the
Josephine.
first
I'm
time I've seen
impressed.
Thank you.
very good. Okay, so,
Thank you so
Victor,
much.
yep, Victor, you're welcome to come
Congratulations.
to our meeting and listen to this again on February 22nd, is it, Josephine?
Yes.
Okay, if you like, you don't have to.
I would love to. And I just want to add something before we end. First of all, thank you. And I can't wait to meet whoever I'm possible to meet when I'm there. And I like to listen, meaning of Manhattan, downtown. I've been here 20 years. I know everybody. I will be new to the neighborhood, but I like to know people. And if it's a problem, could be the littlest thing that people believe, I don't want it to. I like to know, because if I know, I get better, or I would say what I would believe, the reason we're doing it. All I like is to do business, but I like to be neighborhood first, because I like to go to work and be happy at what I do. And the only way to be happy is if everybody's happy. It's that simple to me.
Sounds
Very
great. I
nice,
look forward to
Victor.
coming there for a nice pizza.
Sounds great.
dinner.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay, now Victor.
Thank
Josephine
you.
will- Victor,
Thank you.
Josephine will contact you about coming into the office to sign the agreement, okay?
Yeah,
Will-
I'll reach
will
out
be
to you,
my pleasure.
Michael. Robert, rather, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank
just,
you, everybody.
email me or Mike.
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Victor and Robert can go. We still have a couple of more pieces of our committee. Josephine, you had a meeting you'd like to speak to us about?
Yeah, so I just wanted to share with board members, actually our chair, Lori Willis, asked me to share with you that at the Borough Board presentation, which is a monthly meeting of all chairs and council members in Brooklyn, this month there was a presentation on the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. About New York City's implementation of Executive Order 203 in February of 2021. So we're at the point now where there can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? So there was an executive order that was issued, and we're at the public review state seeking comments. I'm going to share my screen just to share with you, because we were asked to share with our Police and Public Safety Committee, and I'm going to share it with the full board. The PowerPoint presentation, we weren't able to have someone here tonight, but I did say that I would share the Oh, excuse me. Now, let me try it again. Can you all see it now? Let's see.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. So basically, the representative reviewed the executive order, the timeline, the engagement strategy, reform goals, feedback, and there was some brief discussion. So the purpose primarily was to reform local law enforcement policies and strategies to mitigate police-involved deaths and racially biased law enforcement. The process is that the city must involve the community and consult stakeholders, offer a plan for public comment, and present the plan to local legislative body for adoption. And the plan is to review a wide array of issues such as use of force, procedural justice, systemic racial bias or racial justice, restorative justice practices, and crime prevention. New York City's police reform efforts are ongoing, and the Office of the Mayor said they would continue to work on ensuring policing reflects the needs of the communities we serve. So this is the timeline and the structure. So right now, we're at the draft plan posted for 30-day public comment period. There's a final drafting plan that we're going to have an opportunity to formally, I guess, comment on sometime in February and March. And then that plan is going to be ratified by the City Council. So there is a City Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Working Group that's led by First Deputy Mayor Dean Foulahan, City Hall's Community Affairs and Intergov, the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, the New York City Police Department, the Mayor's Office of Operation, and City Council staff. And there are co-sponsors that were also on the call, Jennifer Jones Austin Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, Arva Rice, New York Urban League, and Westmore of Robin Hood. And all engagement is ongoing, including commitment to an collaborative process. Collaborative is seeking input and will develop a framework and plan in progress to stakeholders for feedback and comment. The goals of engagement is to respect and reflect perspectives of most heavily policed communities, to receive policy proposals from community members and experts, develop ideas for building trust and legitimacy, and establish long-term structures for continued genuine engagement. They held 60 RRC meetings. Over 100 organizations were represented. There are 15 virtual meetings open to every New Yorker. Police oversight entities engaged, and they had 40 plus roundtable meetings. So the NYPD plus co-sponsoring public listening sessions, there were 9. A whole host here, as you can see in the list, you know, elected officials, city agencies, key partners that were involved in this. The community stakeholder engagements, impacted communities, community leaders. I mean, you see a list here: NYCHA Tenant Association, Center for Court Innovation, LGBTQI leaders, shelter-based and affordable housing communities, business leaders, CBOs. So basically the goals to eliminate racially biased policing, unnecessary or excessive force, to apply principles of restorative justice and reconciliation to increase trust, address areas of police culture that act as impediments to the achievement of reform goals, to create evidence-based policy reforms and permanent structures to achieve reform goals. They talked about a framework for reform and community feedback that included discipline, accountability, transparency, improving interaction between police and civilians. They talked about the role of police, diversity, equity, inclusion, culture, and training. So they have already announced some reforms, a disciplinary matrix that was announced by the mayor, strengthening the CCRB, establishing a patrol guide review committee, expanding CCRB to include the Department of Investigation, OIG, and CCPC, strengthening oversight by consolidating functions into a city body. The biggest announcement they had talked about at the meeting was creating a community panel to review the selection and evaluation of precinct commanders. That's something that several community boards had supported and signed on to a letter. Our board did not at the time because I guess at the point we were asked by the borough president, there was not enough time before a full board meeting. But that's currently in conversation, embedding community engagement into training. So there was a lot of information that was provided, at this meeting. They were seeking community input and sharing that this is actually taking place with the members that were in attendance at the meeting. So Lori thought it best that I share it with the Police and Public Safety Committee. There's a limited window for comments. It seems that the city is going to be launching a website and an online portal. I don't have that information yet. So that should be coming, I guess, as they progress with the online portal. And that was pretty much, their presentation. The mayor's office, I guess, was hoping to come to boards. We were looking to invite them to come to a future board meeting, which I think would be best. But I wanted to let you all know that this is happening. I didn't realize the detail. I sat in on the meeting on behalf of Lori. So I wanted to share this with you, and I'm going to be sending this out to all board members so they could take a look at the PowerPoint. And we most likely will be, assigning this to, maybe a future meeting to have a guest speaker to kind of answer questions back and forth from members. I didn't know if any of you had questions or.
Well, I have a lot of questions. Okay,
Yeah.
right here on the page that you're on, go back up. You have, back down, stop. Okay, you have putting, I just saw it, I lost it. Expanding People's Police Academy. What is the People's Police Academy?
The People's Police Academy is a training that's offered to civilians that kind of explains day-to-day police operations. I know a few people who have gone to it. I don't know if that includes, actually riding out with the, going to a precinct and actually seeing firsthand, getting a bird's eye view of what it is, to handle day-to-day police interactions, community and police, to give the community a better sense and better idea.
Okay. Also, right on the same page, the Joint Force to End Gun Violence, the contact tracing for each shooting. See, I as many of us, we're all very upset with the level of crime increasing in our community over the last a year or so. And I don't understand how you can end gun violence if we no longer have, I hate to say stop, question, and frisk, but that sort of was a deterrent for people for carrying guns. And therefore, if you don't have a gun, then you're not going to use it, at that time. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. And there wasn't that, much of detail. I think it's really important that we have someone from the mayor's office come in and be able to answer these kinds of questions for the committee. So I think that's why we should. Marty, you have your hand raised?
Yes, but right before the pandemic, I was present at a meeting where DA Gonzalez spoke about his efforts to end gun violence, and assuming that they're similar to what the Joint Force to End Gun Violence is, he explained that it has a lot to do with diverting eligible cases for deserving, mostly young-ish people who are charged with possessing guns outside of their homes. So those young people can receive education, services, and future gun violence is diverted. So it's more of a forward-looking approach and less actively making things safe on the street right now is my understanding and interpretation.
Okay, thank you.
Also, one more thing, Josephine, and maybe it's in here. I think up until today, there's a record number of police officers that are retiring. Is there any way that they're going to be trying to recruit to replace these police officers?
I haven't received word of that. I do know that the last class when I was at budget consultations was delayed, in part because of funding, in part because of COVID. But I have not yet received, updated. I think they were hoping to have another class. I don't know how large, sometime this year, but I don't know yet. I could find out, Barbara.
Meaning 2021?
2021. I don't know if they would, fulfill the complement of those that have retired, but I could ask for an update.
Sure. Because it just seems like this is going to be a lot of work for the police officers in retraining, while in the same time, they need to be out in the streets working.
Right.
Be very hard. Okay,
Okay.
I'm good. If you're good.
I'm good. That was informational. Thank you. I think that's all we have for tonight. Unless anyone has, I do have some news that police officer Michael Panapinto, who's community affairs officer for the 68th precinct, you'll notice there's no one here from the 6-8 tonight. He has moved on. He is no longer at the 6-8. So he wished everyone his best and gratitude for, working with the board during his time at the 68th precinct. He's moved over to Patrol Borough, Brooklyn South, also in community affairs. And replacement hasn't been named yet, but police officer Frank Ingebretson remains, and he'll definitely be at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
That's it. It's
Thank
my
you.
update for tonight. All right,
Thanks, Mary.
everyone.